Try it right now. Run your fingers along your own palm, the exact same way someone else would, the same pressure, the same path, the same speed. Nothing happens. Your brain already knew it was coming, and that single fact explains something much bigger about how your mind actually works. Here's what's happening inside your skull, in the split second before you even move. Every time you initiate a movement, your brain doesn't just send a signal to your muscles. It sends a second, quieter signal to a prediction system, a copy of the motor command, forecasting exactly what sensation that movement is about to produce. Scientists call it an efference copy, a forward model. The name changes depending on which lab you ask, but the underlying idea stays identical everywhere it's studied. This isn't a vague, general guess, and it never has been. The forecast is remarkably specific, encoding the expected timing, location, and intensity of the coming sensation, generated in the fraction of a second between deciding to move and actually moving. Your brain isn't just moving your hand. It's drafting a detailed prediction of exactly what that hand is about to feel, seconds before the movement finishes, so the prediction is already sitting there waiting when the real sensation finally arrives. When the real sensation arrives and matches the prediction, your brain treats it as old news. Already accounted for, not worth flagging. The signal gets dampened before it reaches full conscious awareness, filtered out at a level well beneath anything you'd normally call a decision. That's the whole mechanism, not a lack of sensitivity. A prediction that arrived early enough to cancel the surprise before it ever had a chance to register. In 1998, neuroscientists Sarah Jane Blakemore, Daniel Walpert, and Chris Frith at University College London set out to prove it. And the experiment they built to test it is genuinely clever, precise in a way most psychology experiments from that era simply weren't. They constructed a small robotic device that could tickle a participant's palm, controlled by the participant's own hand movements on a separate lever positioned nearby. The setup let researchers isolate two variables that ordinary self-tickling never separates: exact timing and exact location, independent of the hand's actual motion, something no experiment had managed to cleanly pull apart before. When the robot copied the movement instantly and exactly, the sensation stayed muted. Barely a tickle at all, rated consistently low across the participants tested. Then they added a delay, a fraction of a second between movement and touch. The tickle came back. Even 200 milliseconds was enough to break the prediction, a delay shorter than a single blink of an eye. The forecast no longer matched reality closely enough to cancel it, and the sensation jumped, edging toward what it feels like to be tickled by someone else entirely. They pushed further. Same timing, different location. The robot touched a slightly different spot than the hand was actually moving toward, while keeping the timing perfectly synchronized so only location changed. Same result. Participants rated the mismatched touch as noticeably more ticklish than the perfectly matched version, even though the physical sensation on their palm was identical in every other respect. Break the prediction in any direction, timing, or place, and the cancellation collapses. The tickle returns. This was never about touch sensitivity changing, and it was never a matter of willpower either. Your nerve endings never stopped working. Your brain simply decided, correctly or not, whether the incoming signal was already accounted for, based entirely on how closely it matched a forecast made a fraction of a second earlier. Every single time. Here's where it gets stranger. This cancellation system isn't limited to tickling at all. It's running constantly, across almost every sense you have, filtering out an enormous stream of self-generated sensation before you're ever consciously aware it existed in the first place. Every time your eyes make a rapid movement called a saccade, one of the fastest movements your body can make, faster than a blink, faster than a flinch, the entire visual world should blur violently, the same way footage blurs when a camera whips fast from one spot to another. You never see that blur. Your brain predicts the eye movement in advance and suppresses visual processing for those few milliseconds, stitching together a smooth experience out of what should be a chaotic mess. Researchers studying this, known as saccadic suppression, have measured visual sensitivity dropping in that exact window, timed with remarkable precision to exactly when the blur would otherwise hit, then snapping back to full sensitivity the instant the movement completes. You've made thousands of these eye movements just reading this far. You felt none of the disruption they should have caused, your own voice gets the same treatment. Speak out loud and your brain dampens how loud your voice sounds to you internally, compared to what a microphone would actually measure, because it already predicted the sound your vocal cords were about to make. Researchers have measured this directly, finding reduced neural response in auditory processing regions, specifically during self-produced speech, compared to the identical sound played back to the same person moments later. This is part of why a recording of your own voice sounds so jarring. You're hearing it maybe for the first time, without your own brain quietly editing it down in real time. Tickling was never a strange, isolated quirk. It's one visible symptom of a much larger prediction system running underneath nearly everything you sense, filtering out the expected so your attention stays free for anything genuinely new, anything your brain didn't already see coming, which raises an obvious, fairly unsettling question. What happens when that system breaks? Researchers studying schizophrenia found something that sounds almost like a joke until you look closer. Some individuals experiencing certain symptoms associated with schizophrenia, particularly a reduced sense of control over their own actions, have been found in controlled studies to be able to tickle themselves at rates well above the general population. A prediction system, apparently, that isn't running the same way for everyone. Blakemore and colleagues followed up their original research specifically to test this, checking whether the same forward model system explaining ordinary self-tickling might also explain something far more clinically significant. Their follow-up studies used the same delayed and mismatched touch setup as the original experiment, comparing how each group responded when the prediction was deliberately broken versus left intact. It isn't really about ticklishness at all. Blakemore's later research proposed that certain symptoms, including specific experiences where a person feels their own actions or thoughts are being controlled by an outside force, may stem from a breakdown in this exact same system, if the brain can no longer reliably predict the consequences of its own actions. Self-generated sensations stop getting dampened correctly, and the felt boundary between self and outside world can blur in ways far more significant than a missing tickle ever could, touching something much closer to the core of identity itself. A tickle test quietly functioning as a window into something far more serious, a mechanism running constantly in the background of every waking moment, doing more work than almost anyone outside a research lab ever expected. So the next time you try and fail to tickle yourself, know exactly what you're running into, not a limitation, not a lack of sensitivity in your own hand. You're colliding directly with one of your brain's most fundamental, constantly running processes, a prediction system so fast, so precise, so deeply embedded in ordinary experience that most people go their whole lives without ever noticing it's there. It fires thousands of times a day, every single day, quietly, and asks for no credit at all. It only reveals itself the moment it fails, a robot with a quarter-second delay, a recording of your own unfamiliar voice, a blur you never see between one glance and the next. Each one the same hidden system, briefly caught in the act, doing its job just badly enough, just once, for you to actually notice it exists, quietly running your entire sense of what belongs to you and what doesn't. That system has almost certainly been running since before you could speak, refined across a lifetime of your brain learning exactly what your own actions feel like, tuned finer and finer with every single movement you've ever made. So precisely that the one time it genuinely surprises you, a stranger's hand instead of your own, on the exact same patch of skin, feels like an entirely different sensation, even though physically nothing about the touch itself changed at all, only the prediction did.